It is 9:01, and I'd like to bring the Wednesday, July 7th Executive Committee meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Bates. Berman.
Berman here.
Davis.
Davis
Ford.
here.
Thank you. Froz. Gums.
Gums here.
Kenyon. Caius.
Caius present.
Martin.
Martin present.
Molina. Sanchez.
Sanchez here.
Strathman.
Strathman here.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Tepe here.
Chepro.
Shepro present.
You're up.
Here.
Molina present.
Thank you.
Let's see, Mr. Onsick, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin with the approval of the minutes, I would just like to make a quick comment. Thank you all for being sensitive with your masks. Make sure, I would suggest that everyone maintains a social distance. So stretch out your arms, and if you're not 6 feet away. Gentlemen,
That's a good measure. If I can't touch his arm and he can't touch mine.
gentlemen, please. So we maintain safety. And as we go through the building on the outside corridors, and I have to remind myself as well, that it's best that we start wearing our masks just to maintain health and the well-being of everyone who's here. So with that sensitivity, and if you feel comfortable when you are socially distanced in a meeting, that will be optional. And knock on wood, may that stay optional.
Madam Chairman, I make one comment on that. Thank you very much for that sensitivity. I just got a text from my daughter. She's a doctor in New York in Manhattan. She said many of their staff are vaccinated and just testing positive and symptomatic, not asymptomatic. So we have to be very careful. We really do.
Thank you.
Thank you for.
Yeah. No, and I read in today's King County Chronicle just the headline that yesterday there were 40 people who had come down with the variant, and now it's 80. So it's starting to double. So again, please just be careful, get your masks back out, and here we go. And we'll always have them posted at the doors as well for you in case you forget. And so with that, let's go to the approval of the minutes. May I please have a motion and a second?
Caius move.
Berman second.
Okay, we got it. Are there any changes? Yes,
Yes, I believe that
name please.
Mr. Weber listed.
Mr. Shepherd.
Sorry, Shepro. All right, this is Shepro. I have a correction to the minutes to propose, and that is the last line of the draft minutes indicates Steve Weber was present on July 7th, and I think that was not accurate. And perhaps we could.
Wasn't he sworn in?
That would be Mr. Wallace. But then that was later. So I would request that the minutes be corrected to reflect that. And I'm guessing that because a lot of these are done with templates and so forth, that perhaps we could excise him from future. I think there's some confusion about the committee.
And we'll straighten that one out.
Thank you. So do I need to move to amend, or can we accept the correction?
We'll accept the correction.
Accept the correction. Please call the roll.
Bates.
Aye.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Froz. Gums.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Tepe, yes.
Thank you. Minutes are approved.
May I request that my name be called?
Let me just get through public comments and then I will do that. give me,
I mean, on the roll call.
oh, yes, I'm sorry, of course. Yes.
Mr.
Oh,
Shepro?
Mr. Shepro, of
Yes.
course.
Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies. Absolutely.
Trouble.
Your name be called and I went. Absolutely. You all good? Okay. Now, is there any public comment? And is there any online? Okay, hearing none. May we please have the, Mr. Onset do the financial reports?
Good morning, everyone. I just have a few highlights I'd like to share that from the finance report that was presented to the Finance Committee. Regarding county cannabis tax, according to the Illinois Department of Revenue, we should have begun collecting the cannabis tax on sales by municipalities as of May 1st, and that was at the 2.5% rate. And as of July 1st, it increased until 3.75%. We should receive our first actual collection of sales tax on cannabis sales this month. What I would just like to make sure you're aware of and understand is that it will be combined in this with all of our other sales tax revenue. So we will not know the amount of cannabis sales tax that was included. Sorry, is there something different I should be doing? It's not. Sounds so. I should back up. So we will not know, and we're not allowed to know the amount of actual cannabis sales tax that's mixed in with the sales tax revenue. But we'll just notice that our general sales tax revenue will have increased as of the month of August. Regarding all of our shared and direct state tax revenue, and this would include sales tax, local use tax, RTA sales tax, state income tax, and personal property replacement tax. As of the month of July, this revenue appears to have completely recovered from the impact of the pandemic. So year to date, we're at $5.4 million ahead of what we had budgeted. And that is because we had significantly reduced the budget, thinking that the impact of the pandemic would continue this year. We are now at where we should be pre-pandemic. So it's very good news. Hopefully this will continue through the remainder of the year. And then, as I mentioned at the Finance Committee, the entire $92.9 million of the coronavirus relief funds had been expended by the county. So all that remains is approximately $110,000 of interest that had been earned on the funds. And that is allocated currently to cover any remaining administrative expenses that we have concerning the closeout of the grant from the federal government. And if there is anything left of this interest, it could be applied towards any unreimbursed COVID-related expenses. And I should note, and I think you may have been copied on what I provided to the American Rescue Fund Committee. We do have approximately $1 million of additional COVID-related expenses that were incurred this year that would have been eligible for reimbursement had there been any coronavirus relief funds remaining. So this $1 million was not able to be reimbursed, and it's not budgeted. Therefore, we should consider reimbursing the county for those expenses, either out of the savings from the coronavirus relief fund, payroll reimbursements that occurred last year, or from the American Rescue Plan Fund. So that's all I have for you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, yes.
Question, yeah, this is Caius. Yeah, you said that the return from the cannabis sale,
Yeah.
it was lumped in. There's been some discussion about actually earmarking the revenue from the cannabis sales. Is that because we don't know what it is? Is that
Well, we're
difficult
not,
or impossible or?
we're not allowed to specify the cannabis sales by law, so that would be difficult. I mean, we'll see an increase in our sales tax revenue, and we can certainly increase our budget for other expenses,
But not earmark it.
right?
Thank you.
This is Sanchez, isn't it
No,
the,
excuse me,
Oh.
Mr. Shepherd was next.
To Mr. Caius's point, and this is not intended as a criticism of your office, my understanding is, you know, but we are not allowed to be told. I mean, obviously, somebody has to look at a transfer of revenue from the state.
Well-
And I guess by way of that, at least I had a long talk a couple of months ago with somebody in St. Charles over the same issue on the city council. And I'm wondering if either you or the state's attorney could perhaps elaborate on that point, because intuitively, it obviously seems strange that there's a revenue source, but we're not allowed to know how much it is, except by sort of playing numerical games with the increases.
When we receive it from the state, it will be included in the sales tax revenue that we receive from the state. So it will not
Not
be
separately broken out.
right. So I will have no way of knowing that.
Okay.
What I've tried to do is look at how the sales tax has increased in the communities which have the dispensaries and have been collecting sales tax, to try to have some guess or idea as to how much ours will increase as a result of that. And so I've built that increase into the budget. So yes, in terms of, an estimation or approximation based on other communities, yes, I have an idea. I don't know how accurate, so I tried to be conservative.
I was going to ask if the state's attorney could perhaps elaborate on
Sure.
why or how
Yeah, why?
it was set up this way.
So it's been a while since I looked at this portion of the statute, but it does have some very stringent confidentiality provisions built in that apply directly to the Department of Revenue. And I had the same reaction, that doesn't seem congruent with open book statutes, especially with regard to finance for the government. But the idea behind this portion of the statute is that right now there are so few of these businesses that to reveal that percentage of revenue would be to reveal, their gross sales and other proprietary information. You couldn't separate that out. So I think, as Mr. Onzik mentioned, you've got to try to make reasonable reporting to the finance end at the local level. But it really is the DOR that has those very, very strong confidentiality provisions weighing against it, and they have to abide by that.
Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez.
Yes, when we talked about earmarking cannabis tax revenue, I believe that was in relation to county cannabis sales. Is that correct? Not state?
Yes, that was my understanding.
So we're able to see that as an item.
No.
No.
Not even
The
that.
state cannabis sales tax that we received our share of is already earmarked, and it's going into a special revenue fund, and we know that amount. And that's it's under the control of the sheriff. It's one of his special revenue funds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions about this or from Mr. Onzik? No, thank you, Mr. Onzik.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question, but for Mr. Anzik, but it's under the rescue plan item,
Sure.
which is probably the next real item on the agenda, but I could ask it now or defer.
Well, let me see if there's any old business that can go to the agenda. Is there any old business that anyone would like to discuss? No. Is there any new business that needs to be brought forward? None. All righty. We're now into the American Rescue Plan, and I will be asking each committee chair to present their resolutions. Mr. Sanchez, on the American Rescue Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this is creating Fund 356 for the recoupment of lost revenue. So any money that we accept under the revenue loss component under the American Rescue Plan Act will go into this fund for us to determine what to use it for after that point. And then this is also accepting the first year of the revenue loss from the fund, from the act. And I will motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr.
Shepro,
Shep-
second.
Yes. And are there any questions?
Yes. I received a letter
Name,
and from
please. Name.
Shepro again. I received a letter from a member of the public, and from the nature of the letter, I suspect everybody got a similar letter. And I thought perhaps we could briefly clarify again the impact of the 4.1% versus taking a lower number, because the import of the letter seemed to be that this was a money grab by the county board to the exclusion of worthy public projects. So I wonder, Mr. Committee Chair or Mr. Odzik, if you could just explain a little bit more for anybody, members of the public, about whether that is in fact an accurate fear.
And if I may just interject, did everybody get a copy of that letter? Was sent out yesterday? You had a chance to read it? It was, I believe, sent to all of us. And it was sent from AID. So if you
Madam
take a
Chair,
look at it.
Tepe here. I'm not sure if everybody on the board may have received it. It wasn't sent to the board members. It was sent out on their contact list, and I'm not sure. all the
Oh,
board
and I will
members have
make sure that I
contact
send that
list.
to everybody so
I
they have a
didn't
chance
receive
to see it.
I did not receive.
I'll get you guys a
It'll-
copy.
We'll get it to you.
Did anybody send it to me?
So
right
to the question at
Got it.
hand.
So Sanchez here on that.
now? Could you send it to me now?
We collecting the revenue loss at 4.1% is allowable under the act. And it's also encouraged as an administrative ease. It does not mean that all of the money that goes into revenue recoupment won't go into social services and other types of programs that are benefiting those in need in the community. I think that's a misunderstanding that has somehow arisen based on our conversations, but it's just not the case that this is a money grab and that all this money is going to go into, pet projects for the county and not out into the community. We're at the early stages of our planning. So when we talk about, having $17 million that will go out into the community, it doesn't mean that's the only money that will benefit the community at all. It just means we're at the early stage of our planning. So it's a little premature to say that all of this money is going to be going into county pet projects or whatever the claim is, and not into things like social services. And also there is the component of payroll reimbursement. There was a claim made that we're giving the sheriff's office an additional $20 million in their budget. That's not the case. It's reimbursing for revenue. So that's money that will then go back to the county board general fund to be determined on how to use it to be spent. So it's not just handing over, already a huge budgeted department even more money. So again, that's another misunderstanding that is being promoted in that letter. Things that can be cleared up with a phone call, but it's good that we talk about it in public as well. So thank you for asking.
And I thank you for the answer.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, Berman here. I've always been under the impression that everything we do here in the county board is for the people and the population of our county. And whether we take this money and use it for something that we feel it's necessary, we're doing something for the people of the county of Kane. So I don't know how somebody thinks it's a money grab or whatever. I really feel that everything we do every day, every meeting we come to, that we work for the people of the county. So hopefully that our best decisions are based on that, and everything we do are for the people of the county.
Thank you.
Yes, Caius. I had the question about the 4.1. Now, this 4.1 we're voting for was for a portion of it. It wasn't, it was for the first year's budgeted amount.
Yes,
It wasn't
just
for the
for-
entire amount either. So
Correct.
we could change that.
We have to
later
do
on.
the formula annually after we get our actual revenues from the fiscal year.
So regardless, if we vote 4.1 this time.
We could change our mind next year or the year after.
Right. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Tepe here. First off, I'd like to expand upon some of the comments and agree with the comments from Mr. Berman. When I received this email, I was personally quite distressed. I felt this was one of the most unprofessional emails I've seen from a 501c3 organization in this county. And for them to do a call to arms and to send this out without even proper discussion with some of the board members is, in my mind, extremely inappropriate. And, you know, they're also urging people to come to the board meeting and speak up. Now, I'm certain that's within their rights to do that. But to do that without really being properly informed is a mistake, in my opinion, on their part. And it makes them, in my opinion, look pretty bad. Thank you.
If I may, I would like to just respond to AID. The people with developmental disabilities and mental health issues has been, if I can say all honestly, beaten down by the state of Illinois. Illinois has not funded, and I think we all are aware of that, this issue. We are at the bottom of 50 states, ranking sometimes 48 or 49 in our support and funding of people with developmental disabilities. Why I agree that perhaps it was a letter that needed a little bit more research and was a call to arms. It was a desperate plea by Kane County to ask for support and money as a recognition. So I'm going to take it in the spirit of putting out their hand for help. They are, as any member of the public is welcome to come here and speak to this board. And we welcome them here to hear their voices, to hear their concerns. As long as they're doing it properly, within their 3-minute time limit, following a proper protocol. And that's something I know we'd all support. So going forward, I would hope that perhaps at the next ARP committee, working with our finance team, that we can do a report in simple language for the public and for us as well, so that we have a full understanding of what this money looks like when we say county money, to your point, Mr. Berman, what the county money is, and different programs that we are potentially considering, not only based on our 2040 plan, what our mission is, but also based on the needs of the community, so that we're all on the same page working forward.
Bates, please. Thank you, Madam Chairman. When we talk about that everything that the county does is for the people, I agree with that completely. And our local organizations such as AID are closer to the ground. They are, if we give that money more locally to our nonprofits and to our organizations that are touching the people, I believe that money is better spent. We don't want big government here. We don't want Kane County to be keeping money and saying we know what's best for our community when there's people who are closer to the ground.
Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to Mr. Berman's point that isn't everything that we do here benefiting the people, I would agree to a large extent, but I would also say there's a lot of mistrust in the public for elected officials in government. So I think it is good that, you know, we have cameras, we have YouTube. People can go back and watch our meetings and hear what's actually said. We're being very transparent about everything. And all of us board members are an email or a phone call away. Anyone that has any concerns can certainly reach out to their representative and get some definitive answers. So,
Mr. Martin.
I don't want to belabor the discussion, but I think it's important to remember that the sense of doing what we did, to be very practical about it, was that we don't have a plan in place. And the only thing that makes sense to do is to maximize the amount of money available for us to enable the plan when in fact we put it in place, and to do something different at this stage of the game would have been, in my mind, imprudent. So.
My mother gave me some sound advice that I've always lived by. If you don't know what to do, don't do anything. So I think, could we call the roll?
Sure.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Oh, I'm sorry. I need to change my vote. No.
Davis, yes.
Thank you. Ford,
Yes.
Franz, Gums,
Gums, no.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Could you clarify what the vote is on, please?
Read it out loud.
authorizing the creation of Fund 356 for recoupment of lost revenue under the American Rescue Plan Act, fiscal year 21 budget adjustment and related transfer.
Thank you. My vote is yes.
Thank you. Sturgis, Tepe,
Yes.
Shepro,
Shepro, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. I have a second, or a motion and a second to authorize, who's in charge of this one? Authorizing professional healthcare services agreement between Kane County and Kane County Child Advocacy Center and Board of Trustees at the University of Illinois.
Ford, make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Sanchez, second.
Davis, second.
And what committee is this coming from, please? From the State's Attorney's Office. Here we go.
My apologies on that one. I was busy sending emails. Give me one more second.
That's more than a second, Jamie.
I'm going to defer this back to Miss Brady.
Are we all good?
Yes, excuse me. I'm sorry, I believe, is Ms. Molina on the line? Okay. This is a matter that did not make it to the committee cycle due to timing and so forth. The resolution itself is the authorizing the execution of an agreement with the University of Illinois Board of Trustees. The Kane County Child Advocacy Center has a specialized exam room to conduct forensic exams on some of the child victims that come to the CAC. The University of Illinois provides the medical professionals to perform those very specialized exams. The CAC had previously had a similar agreement, which recently expired. And this is simply I don't want to say a continuation, but a reauthorization or re-execution of that agreement on the same terms that the parties had been operating under previously.
Are there any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Bates,
Yes.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Franz, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Sturgis, Tepe,
Tepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes. Thank you very much. May I have a motion and a second to amend the Housing and Community Development Consolidated Plan?
Martin moves.
Sanchez, seconds.
Second. Mr. Martin?
Madam Chair, the intention this morning was to have Scott Berger offer an educated and informed explanation of this program, because what we're doing here is accepting money. And we never have turned down that opportunity, but he can't get his audio to connect from the computer. So I have a text from Mr. Berger that asked me if I would simply tell everybody that the resolution amends our plan to include the funds we expect to receive from HUD this year. So we did not have a chance to vet this at committee because of timing issues, and it's before us today for approval. And as I moved in its support, I would ask that we vote in favor.
Deputy second.
I think we already have a second. Thank you. Could we ask Mr. Berger to appear at our board meeting for this explanation, just so we know a little bit more about this program?
Sure.
That'd be helpful.
Sure. I assume he can hear this. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's texting me, but he can't connect his audio.
Just confirm with him.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions on this program? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bates. Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Bras. Gums.
Yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Bias, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Deputy, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
Passes.
Thank you. The next is, may I have a motion and a second to authorize execution and filing of unit clarification petition for maintenance and janitor workers at the Kane County Adult Justice Center.
Board moves.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Caius, second.
Second. And who would like to speak to this?
Good morning, Michelle Neerman from the State's Attorney's Office. I believe Chris Allen is on vacation this week, so I will help explain this resolution. The maintenance employees at the jail used to be under the supervision of the sheriff's office. A number of years ago, about 10 years ago, they transferred exclusively to the management and supervision of building maintenance. The building maintenance had proposed to the sheriff's office that they revert back to the relationships that were in place 10 years ago, with the sheriff's office having supervisory authority over the jail maintenance staff. And then the county would simply be the co-employer from the funding perspective. So this, when you do that, when you change employers, this would be adding a joint employer. You need to file a petition for unit clarification with the Illinois Labor Relations Board. This resolution would then allow the county, the county's attorneys, Laner Mushin, to file that petition to add the sheriff's office as a joint employer. The union is in agreement with this change. And then it is anticipated by the time this is approved that this would all take effect next budget year, beginning in December 1st.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Clerk, please call the roll then.
Bates. Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Bras. Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Bias, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Deputy, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
That passes.
Motion passes. We're now moving on to finance. Mr. Berman, would you,
Yes.
I'd please ask you to present and move all 26 of these items. I believe it's A through Z.
I would move that we approve all 26 unless there's some that someone would like to discuss separately.
Yes.
Kenyon would like to second the motion.
Second. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Very good.
Hearing no discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bates. Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford.
Ford, yes.
Bras. Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon. Caius.
Bias, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Deputy, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, yes.
That passes. Thank you.
Passes. We are now on to judicial and public safety. Ms. Molina, could you We'll have a motion and a second, then I'll ask you to present your item, please.
Hi, good morning. Judicial and Public Safety has one item we'd like to move to the consent agenda for next Tuesday's meeting. And that's an intergovernmental agreement between King County and the Village of Wayne. And I'll make a motion to move.
Berman second.
And we got the second? Oh, that'll be fine. Turn
Gotta
this
be fast.
Very, very fast, unfortunately.
I feel like I'm on a game show.
Hit the buzzer. Are there any questions on this? Yes.
Yes, Shepro, as you know by now, this affects my home village. And at previous meetings, I had asked that this be deferred because it appeared that the agreement had never actually been discussed publicly by the Wayne Village Board, nor the fact that there was a need for this agreement in any way made known to the residents of the village. That still is the case, and I'm still concerned about that. But I also want to make clear that I, as a resident of the village, appreciate very much that Sheriff Hayne has stepped up to make the services available. There was an article in the Herald that indicated that DuPage County had approved a similar agreement, but were receiving a payment of $50 per call that was responded to by the DuPage County Sheriff. We are proposing, I think, to offer the service without charge. And because I guess I'm the beneficiary of not having to pay for service to my community, I will abstain on this vote. But I do believe, obviously, the people of the village need to have assurance that that midnight shift will have attended to. So I do not oppose it, but I will abstain from voting.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. It's very generous of Kane County not to charge where DuPage is charging per call, to be commended.
I note that the estimate, I think, from DuPage was that there are about 2 calls a month, so.
Okay. Is that on the DuPage side of the border or?
That would be, I think it was unclear from the article whether that was the entire, it's about 50-50. So, you know, but I think the number was today 2.5 calls a month during that period of time.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bates, Berman,
Berman, yes.
Davis,
Davis, yes.
Ford,
Ford, yes.
Cross, Gums,
Gums, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes.
Caius,
Caius, yes.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Molina,
Molina, yes.
Sanchez,
Yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Sturgis, Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Shepro.
Shepro, abstain.
Thank you.
Motion passes. We are now on to Riverboat Funding. Mr. Caius, could you please have a motion and a second to approve your motion authorizing Grand Victoria Riverboat Funding for internal projects?
Like that, yes. Chris Caius, yes, as chair of the Riverboat, the Grand Victoria Riverboat Funding Committee, I would like to move authorizing Grand Victoria Riverboat Funding for internal projects fiscal year 2022.
Strathman, second.
Is that in the form of a question?
Mr. Ford, may I ask you to withdraw so Ms. Bates can have the opportunity?
She's not on the committee.
Oh, if he's on the committee,
On the committee.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then as the explanation, we had some difficult decisions, and on behalf of Mr. Ford, I'd like to thank the committee, Mr. Ford, Mr. Berman, Mr. Leonard, and Ms. Strathman for their deliberations. This was some tough decisions this year because we had about half as much money coming from the riverboat, and we're asked for about twice as much to be distributed on certainly worthy projects throughout the county. Our strategy that we, and I'd like to commend the committee on working through this. We had an extra meeting or two just to make sure that we understood what was going on. The strategy was to consider how each of the applicants qualified for the 3 E's: education, environment, and economy. And then in a deep dive, we averaged the contributions for each of the recipients for over the past 5 years to get a base of what the committee had done in the past, and the board approved to have some continuity as we went forward. We also compared the requested amounts to the total we had to distribute, which, like, as I mentioned, in new Riverboat funds was considerably less. And then we weighed the contribution from the new funds versus reserves that were accumulated over the past as funds were additional funds or extra, I shouldn't call them extra funds, but we were able to reserve some, and we were, and in the end, we decided to distribute about 25% of the reserves to current budget requests, while keeping some for future years. So I think it was a tough choice. I commend staff too for helping us, including Mr. Berger, Mr. Dahl. And so I think we did a really good job of parsing what was requested and what we had to avail ourselves of. And we came up with those that it's listed in the, it's listed under the resolution, which included some funds that were already in the funds for individual applicants, just a rollover, as well as new funds, and then our total reserves. If there's any questions, or if anybody would like on the board would like me to go over the process, I think the committee was a well-chosen committee. We had 2 representatives, Mr. Ford and Mr. Leonard, who had been on the committee prior, and then 3 new members. And they could, I think, I don't know that everybody, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure nobody came out of there happy. So I think we had a good resolution to what we were going to accomplish.
Very good. Any further comments on this, questions? No. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bates.
Aye.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
Ford, yes.
Bras. Gums.
Yes, Gums is.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Pepe, yes.
Shepro.
Pepperell, yes.
Passes.
Very good. Thank you. Well done. The Riverboat Funding is a robust, and I wish more robust opportunity to fund very needy services here in the
Give
county.
us more money next year. Unfortunately, it doesn't look good. Thank you.
So much I can do with that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
At this point, I would like to make a motion that this committee go into closed session for the purpose of considering personnel matters relating to specific employees, including all of the items set forth in the Open Meetings Act under that exception.
Do I have a second?
Second, Berman.
Call, please.
Bates. Berman.
Berman, yes.
Davis. Ford.
Davis, yes.
Thank
Mute
you.
button.
Ford, yes. Bras. Gums.
Gums, yes.
Kenyon.
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Martin.
Martin, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Sanchez.
Yes.
Strathman.
Yes.
Sturgis. Tepe.
Pepe, yes.
Shepro.
Pepperell, yes.
We are now going into executive session. May I have a roll call, please?
Bates.
Bates here.
Berman.
Berman here.
Davis.
Davis here.
Ford.
Present.
Bras. Gums.
Gums here.
Kenyon.
Here.
Caius.
Gaius present.
Martin,
Martin present.
Molina,
Molina present.
Sanchez,
Here.
Strathman,
Here.
Sturgis, Tepe,
Deputy here.
Shepro,
Shepro present.
Bureau.
Here. We are
Thank you.
back in open session.
Madam Chair, I would ask unanimous consent to place the committee reports on file.
Second.
Second.
Don't need a second.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
objection.
a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Saves a roll call.
Very good. Do we have any committee reports?
Don't you dare.
Hearing none? Sir.
I would move we adjourn and return to society.
Davis, second.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Please.
It's a voice vote.